Hello everybody, welcome back to the nation here. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of interviews lately and I don't really hope that feels like it's like gonna um saturate my channel, but here I am joined today by Silent Dest.
Hello. You can also call me Steel Quill. Either way's fine. Either name.
What can you tell me about yourself?
Uh, Plenty of things, really. I guess it depends on what's interesting and what's not. Uh, I've been a part of the fandom and everything for a few years. Started back when I was in college. Uh, I really found the show on a whim. Uh, MLP. I found it on a whim. I didn't even plan on ever watching it or anything like that until one of my friends was just like, "You've got to see the show. You got to. It's ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous how good it actually is." And I was like, "It's a kids show. How good could it possibly be?" And I sat down and I watched the first two episodes, and I sat there and I was like, okay, that was better than expected. I considered along for the ride, and here I am 4 years later, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here? I love to. I love reading, writing, everything. My dream is to be a writer myself. I'm hoping to turn that into a career. I've been writing, obviously, it's the whole point of this, but I'm wanting to break into it in a serious fashion one day, and I'm really hoping to reach that at some point. Uh, Other than that, right now I'm mainly just working kind of a part-time job sort of thing, keeping paying bills, living life, the usual things, how things go.
Hmm. And so your friends got you into the fandom. What? I don't ask. I haven't asked any of my interviewees this actually. What episode is your favorite?
Oh God, you would ask that question, wouldn't you? Let's see. Oh God, a favorite episode. Um, oh God, favorite episode, favorite episode. Honestly, pretty much any of the episodes really involving AJ, just because she's my favorite. I feel like one of the episodes that like is one of the ones I remember the most. I don't remember the title right off the back of my head, unfortunately. I never was good at remembering those. Um, it was the episode where she got to help out with the spa and she helped fix up everything, and they just showed just she's resourceful, she's smart, gets to the point of everything. I was like, this illustrates everything great about her character that I love, and I love the whole bit of it, and everything was good. I didn't agree with the ending, but though they had to deliver the moral, and that was everything, and I understood that, and I agree with it. But it just let me. It felt like I got to showcase all the best parts about AJ that I enjoy, and made her be my favorite character. Now, it's not the first episode that made me fall in love with her. Uh, I think that would probably. I mean, God, it's been so long. There's been so many seasons. There's so many episodes to try and keep up with. It's hard to really keep up. Uh, God. I would say the episode that really cinched it for me to just really liking AJ is probably that first couple episodes where she's just like very straightforward. She puts herself on the line straight away, not even a second thought, like trying to help someone, and like that just stood out to me. Like that was probably a favorite thing. It's really hard to pick a favorite episode with this sort of thing. There's so many good ones. It's really hard to pick one.
So you say hopefully this doesn't get anybody to have your head, but you would say that Applejack is best pony.
Absolutely 100%, and I will fight anyone on it.
Interesting. See, I got constructive criticism a little bit ago, and I. It's because I added my interest in opinions into the interview, even though the interview is supposed to be about the interviewee. I don't care. It's so the interviewee can have like a spark of an answer, since
Yeah,
it might be a question that I won't cover.
of course.
So I had this background on my old computer, and it was uh, Applejack is best pony.
Well, absolutely. I 100% support this conclusion. You should have kept that as your background. I would have.
Okay, okay. Anything you can tell me about your stories, mainly your dirty ones.
God, where to start with those? Really, it was interesting when I first got started on those, just because it wasn't really an intent of being like, I want to write porn. It's like, no, that's not really what I wanted to do in the first place. It was actually more of just I wanted to write a romance angle thing. It was the first thing I ever did for the fandom. It was when I joined, when I felt like I was part of it and everything, I wanted to contribute. It was a really big thing back then. It was like everyone was making stuff. You had artists, you had writers, you had musicians, you had everyone doing stuff. I mean, plushies and everything. You had like every idea of merchandise and creativity being done. And it was awesome. And I was sitting there watching, and I was like, man, I want to do something for this. I was like, well, I write. I wrote fan fiction and everything for it, so I can write something for this. And I was like, well, I don't want to write, kiddie stuff. I want to write, adult things. And I was like, all right, well, let's give the sex stuff a shot. And my first story, I actually still have it on there and everything. My first story, uh, it was bad. I'm not gonna say that right now. It was bad. It was not very good. And it was only just because I didn't really know what to do at first. It was a learning experience. And then from there, I kind of branched into it. I grew into this idea of making these clop fics, these sex stories and everything, but I made them try to have a deeper element to them instead of just a sex story for sex's sake. It was more of like yes, the characters are going to have sex and everything, but there's reason for it. There's motivation for it. They actually want to do it, not just here's two characters, let me smash them together and see if people like it, sort of thing. And it kind of carried on from there for a time. I kept challenging myself. I would find like a character like one of the ones that stood out to me that I was thinking about it was I wrote one for Maud Pie. Now everyone knows Maud is kind of a little bit hard to get on that emotional scale, with the whole monotone flat name thing, flat voice. But I challenged myself. I was like, fine, okay, I'll do it. I'll take a crack at it. And I came up with a character to match along with and everything. And it actually worked out really well. And a lot of people took to it really well. And I was really happy with it. And it just kind of went on from there, just constantly challenging myself to be like, okay, if I've got this character and I got to pair him up with, who can I pair him up with? And how can I make it be a good story with sex in it? But the sex wasn't just the main point. The main point was actually just a wholesome experience was my main goal with it, really.
So what you're saying is you added character development and plot to your stories.
Yes, more plot than just what you would grab with the two handfuls, essentially. But I wanted to make it so that the story felt more whole and not just okay, here, yeah, you did a thing. Let me just add it to the pile of everyone else is also doing this sort of thing. I wanted mine to try and make mine stand out, and I felt like I've managed to find that way to work in most regards. Like I've written a lot of different versions, different ways, things like that. I know my own trends and everything. I have different trends and patterns and whatnot of stuff that I always do. Some bad, some good. But it works out. I feel like I make stories that people can enjoy not just for the sake of wanting to read a dirty story, but for the sake of something that they finish reading and are like, that was good. That was enjoyable. I felt like that was a good use of my time. That sort of thing. If I can achieve that with the story, I've succeeded.
Now, was there any story that you created that you could have hoped would have been viewed more?
Oh God, yes. There are some stories that, and this is just a thing that happens with a lot of writers. We put tons of work into stuff like this. We research, we do uh, practice bits, we edit, we rewrite a scene like 5, 6 different times trying to get it to go the right way. Um, there was one I did recently. What was it? It was professional misconduct. It was a Chrysalis story, and I was actually really proud of that one because I was my first time really writing a villain character. I've never really written a villain character until, and the whole angle of it for me was a humanized alternate universe deal. You had Chrysalis being a corporations officer. She was like basically one of the higher ups of the economy. She's like in the 1%, basically. And I worked out this angle. I wanted to write a story involving her, and I wanted to keep all the core aspects of her as we know her from the show. She's conniving, she's very manipulative, she's very cunning, all that sort of stuff. But I wanted to make it so that she could still be in a romantic relationship, and it took some work to figure that out because I never really written a villain. But I managed to make it work, and I was so happy with it. I was like, I've got a really good protagonist. I've got a good setup. The scenes were fun. It was fun to write and everything. Creative. There was wit. There was humor. And it didn't really take off. And I mean, I had some people enjoy it. Some people liked it, and it was good. But at the same time, I sat there and looked at it, and I was like, oh, maybe did I do something wrong? Like, I couldn't help but ask that question. Like, was something wrong? Maybe it was a down period for that time. Maybe no one wanted to read a Chrysalis, alternate universe story or something like that. I don't know. But it's one that I would have liked to see get more attention, definitely. But at the same time, I can't hold people accountable for it if their taste didn't align to it. Maybe people will jump back on it later on down the track. I don't know. I've seen it happen before. Suddenly, a story that I didn't think would do very well or something just explodes, and I'm just like, whoa, what's all the attention for this? And I don't know. But I've always enjoyed writing it, and I had a lot of fun writing that story. I did wish that it got, some more comments, some more attention bit here and there, but I'm not ashamed of it. I actually thought it was pretty fun to do. I'm pretty proud of it.
Now, what is your most viewed story?
Grant me a second to pull that up. I could probably tell you if I can get this to see here. Let's see. My most viewed story, you said?
Yes.
God, goodness, there's so many. There was one, I'm pretty sure, once I go to find, I believe it was my Nurse Red Heart story, which I wrote a long, long time back. Very, very
Is
long
it
time
called
back.
medical training?
Medical relief, actually. But yeah, that one takes the cake on that. That one got, yeah, as it seems, as I'm looking at it
13,000?
right now, actually 17,000, which is shocking to me because I didn't realize that people just took to it so well. That was written in 2014, and it was just a one shot with Nurse Red Heart and the guard from the hospital, and that was I think that was season 3, when Dash is in the hospital after she injures herself, and we get to see her, come to the realization, oh, I love reading, and we get to meet all these hospital characters, Nurse Red Heart, the guards, the other doctors, so on. And I looked at them and I was like, well, I could write, Nurse Red Heart. She doesn't have many stories, and I wrote her with the guard and paired them up and everything. Wrote a nice little sex bit with them, and the sheer popularity of it just amazed me. I was like, it just apparently hit that one sweet spot of romance and slice of life with Nurse Red Heart and everything. You didn't have to go too in depth. You didn't have to worry too much. It was lighthearted, and it just worked apparently because it's my biggest story, and I'm very happy to see it. I'm very glad people enjoy it.
Um, so have you written any other stories besides Clop?
Um, I've thought to. I've gotten a few ideas here and there that I've jotted down and I've thought to do. I haven't done them yet, if only just because I haven't planned them out enough. And if I did write them, I would probably write them under a different account name just because I would be working for a different audience than what I'd be aiming for with my cop fiction. But there's been stuff I've wanted to do for stuff. I did actually write a Zootopia romance. I did write one, um, and I posted that on another site. Unfortunately, of course, that was a sex story too, so I don't know if that really counts for that question. But I did do that. I actually went on hiatus from writing for MLP for about 6-7 months because of that story, because I had to put so much work into researching that compared to MLP, because MLP has been fleshed out so much, and Zootopia was just, it was like still a kind of a brand new thing, so you had to like really dig in, really study all the environments and stuff. You had to really kind of like plan out, sketch out everything. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy. I really would hope to try and put out different stories of different things other than Klopp stories at some point. But once I find the time and means to do it, and once I find a story idea that really, really sticks with me, I might do that then.
I might show you some story ideas that I have but never got in the means of doing.
Sure, it's always good to brainstorm.
Okay, continuing along, um, what is your least favorite story that you created?
The least favorite story I made? Oh, God. The the least favorite story. That's really hard because all the stories I've done, I've always had like a fondness towards. Like I always had felt like it was a good idea or something I enjoyed doing. Um, I think if I had to pick one, there was one I did. I know, I remember now because I've had to look back at it and I was like, God, why did I write that? I wrote that terribly. It was it was Hearts in the Snow. It was a sequel story I did to another really popular story of mine, Sweet Craving, which was a Pinky story. It's right behind Nurse Red Heart in terms of like hits and everything. And I just wrote a sequel and everything. I wrote it for the holidays. I wrote it late, unfortunately, and I wrote it at the time because I was like, well, everyone really enjoyed Pinky's story. Why not write a follow up to it? But unfortunately for me, this came out right at the time that everyone was finding out that Pinky and She Sandwich were a much better coupling than Pinky and Donut Joe, which I disagree with. I love Donut Joe. I think him and Pinky are perfect together. That's me. But I wrote it out and everything, and I put it out there. And at first I was good with it, and then I went back and read it again, and I was like, oh, I did these out of character. Oh, I did this wrong. All these things wrong, and I was like, oh my god, why did I do this? No, I didn't delete it or anything because I just don't believe in, just deleting bad work and everything. I'll try to learn from it, but it's definitely one that I felt I could have done a lot better.
Mm, And so, did you get any inspiration for your villain character of Chrysalis? Were you writing around the time that the Flufflepuff series came out?
The Chrysalis story, no, that was written quite a while after that and everything. Really, it was actually kind of recent. I think I wrote Chrysalis' story. It was actually just a few months back. I wrote it mainly because when I was reading up on Chrysalis stories, I always try to look and see like if anyone's like really written a story like an idea I've had. A lot of the stuff that involves Chrysalis is always either she gets like a redeemed thing, or she's like misunderstood, or she's like Cadence and Shining's swing buddy, or some other kinky thing, and it's just kind of like it got a little tiresome. I was sitting there reading it all, and I was like, I want something that's actually focused on her, not something focused on her being a third wheel. And then that's why I came up with professional misconduct, and I liked it because it focused on her as a main character, not just she's like a sideshow slash oh, look at me for a second before you go back to the main story sort of deal. But no, I did draw inspiration from a lot of different things for that one. I did.
Well, I highly suggest that you go in and watch the Flufflepuff series. Chrysalis is not the main character, but it's done so well with her character that like it reminds me of what you were talking about.
Yeah. No, I did actually. I've actually seen those. I've seen a few of those shorts, and they do make me laugh. Like it's adorable. It's downright adorable. And of course, they try to do her character. She's like, she's trying to be tough about it. She's like, I don't really care about you. And then later on, she's like, all right, fine, I care a little bit, sort of thing. And that works. That works for her in that scenario of sorts.
Um, so what were you doing before the fandom?
For the fandom, I actually wrote fan fiction for another series. I wrote for Tales of Symphonia and Naruto. And Naruto was more or less done just for fun, just being ridiculous and silly. And the Tales of Symphonia is where I did my genuine work, and I was actually really proud of that stuff. That was actually my first foray into like genuine, like full on writing, and I was actually really happy with the ideas. I got really super creative with it, but unfortunately, Tales of Symphonia kind of fell out of popularity, and eventually people just kind of moved along, so I had to kind of leave those stories behind. I was really sad with that because I was really getting into a new idea that I had with them, that I was really happy to work with, but there was no following. There was no one to share it with or anyone to enjoy it. So I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll just have to leave this alone then, and that's what happened to it. I just had to leave it behind. I still look on it fondly, though. I still have the old documents that I still look at, and I'm like, yeah, I remember writing that. Oh, I could have done this, and it's just basically fond memories now.
So, um, what have you been caught up on the latest seasons of MOP?
I've tried to keep up with it as best I can. Lately, I've had a very demanding work schedule from my job, so I haven't been here to watch the season like this episodes when they premiere. I've managed to catch up though for the most part on everything. Like the most recent episode was Chrysalis trying to get revenge on Starlight Glimmer, right? That was where, and then she like did the whole cloning the main six and all that business,
Let's not talk about
right?
that episode, please.
Is it a bad episode?
It's terrifying at the end.
I heard that there was a kind of I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this, a kind of a lost ark sort of feel to it at the end. Is that kind of accurate?
The elements rejected the fates or the corrupted elements, and they like they started
Melted.
turning like all old, and then they disintegrated into trees.
Well, that's what happens when you try to be elements that are corrupted and you try to pick up pure stuff. It's gonna burn you out fast.
It was really horrifying. It's
I gotta admit though, it works though. It worked for it's that storytelling in a way though, if you think about it, because she's trying to be like, oh well, I'll just go take the elements of harmony and we'll just do it that way. And it's like, okay, well, that actually could happen. And then when she tries to do it, of course, the elements reject them. It's just like, no, absolutely not. You're not worthy, and just gone.
and what Twilight said, freaks me out the most.
What did Twilight say? The clone or the real one?
The clone.
What did the clone say?
When she was like being turned into a tree, she said, "You fools, you like messed up," and then they all turned into logs with
Just
their
basically a
elements.
whole trippy experience, isn't it?
It was creepy as hell. It was
I can believe that.
that was that made me think. This show feels no longer targeted towards kids anymore.
Eh, I feel like for the most part, it kind of is. I mean, yeah, some of the episodes, it's a fair thing to say straight away that some of the episodes are not aimed at kids. Like there was the fan episode, like Slice of Life. There was the episode where it was basically a meta conversation between the writers and the fans of the show. There's been stuff aimed at the older people and stuff like that. But I feel like that works too, because a kid, I remember watching some stuff that we look back on now as disturbing as a kid, and I was just like, oh, that happens, whatever, it happened to them. They're bad guys, it happens. And then you fast forward to now, and you're like, oh Jesus, why did you do that? And I think it's just an age difference sort of thing. Like kids at one age will take something at like a thin level. They don't really read into it too hard. And then when you grow up, you go back and look at it and you go, oh God, now I realize why everyone was so worried about it. And now I realize how messed up that was. Sort of thing.
Yeah, and see, I didn't really care for the most part in the earlier seasons. Like, it's still targeted towards kids, and then season 8, episode 13 hit me at the end. I'm like, this is
Hmm.
no longer kid show. Oh my God, why would they show that?
And I don't know. I mean, like you had the episode right before that with the CMC trying to get into the school and everything, like all the other stuff they've been doing. I feel like they do try to still. I mean, they're we're seven seasons in, right? 7 seasons, 7.
8.
Is it 7 or is it 8 seasons? Jesus Christ, 8 seasons. God, 8 seasons. It's ridiculous. Uh, it the by now Hasbro and all of them, they're aware of the older audience that they've encompassed into this thing. There's no way they're not. And I feel like sometimes they do have to make that concession almost of just, or that motion of being aware of, hey, you know, we can't make everything be buddy kitty friendly. There's got to be a little bit of stuff, like an action or something a little bit dark, a little bit dramatic stuff like that. And that's the stuff that people really seem to take to lately, is that kind of that that darker, that rougher stuff like that, and it seems to work. It gets a reaction like your reaction to like the whole it spooks you out sort of thing. They want that. They want people to experience that because if it's better to evoke a reaction from something than to evoke nothing. If you evoke nothing from your episode or from your writing, you're not doing it right. It's not doing its job.
And this is interesting. People, it's funny. People say that the Brony fandom is cringy, but I have never seen anybody ever talk shit about the show.
I never see anyone really talking down about the show anymore. I think it's almost been an accepted sort of thing. It's like it's a subculture thing of sorts now to me. Like personally, I don't go out and try to talk to people about it. I keep quiet about it just because where I am, I live in the Bible Belt, so I'm not exactly open to going up and being like I'm a Roni. Oh well, here's a Bible. Go fix yourself, sort of thing. but but the thing of it is, everyone was always saying, some people say it's cringy and stuff like that. I never see that kind of talk. I never really go looking for it, mind you. But I never really I go to neutral areas where it's brought up. I never see anyone say, oh, I think this is terrible. Oh, I think this is, bad writing, or I think this is, this is boring or anything like that. I never see it. I think it's still doing pretty well.
Okay, okay. And so have you read any other fanfics in the series? I want to ask you this because previously I was interviewing a lot of Fallout Equestria authors, and I want to get an outside viewer's view on that.
Yes. The Fallout Equestria series. Now, I respect what they've done. I do. I really do respect what they've done. They've taken the series of Fallout, they've modeled it and adapted it to what they want to make with writing and artwork and everything, and they've actually made some really good creative projects. I can see it in just how much of a following there is in it, that people really take to that open world and work it into Equestria. Do I personally enjoy it myself? I can't say I do, and the only reason for that is just because I've never actually been much into Fallout myself. Now, does it say that I can comment on just how good or bad their stories are? Not really. I'm kind of unfair on that if I was to try and say that. I do think though that they have a lot of talent to them because I know there's a lot of work that goes into that because the Fallout world is really, really big. It's a lot of work, especially with every new game that comes out because that gives them all new content to work with. But at the same time, I mean, I do respect them. It's not something I particularly enjoy though because to me, how do I phrase this? When you notice how, like, let me ask you this. You notice how when someone's writing a Fallout story, they've always got, their character was in such and such vault, and now that they're out, and da-da-da-da-da, right?
Yes.
Okay. The thing of that is, I get how that works as a plot point for Fallout, because that's the premise, you're a survivor. You survive this terrible, horrible apocalyptic event. And you're now one of the last ones left, and you have to try to make sense of the world you're in. But then it's one of the things I see it repeated again and again and again and again. The same plot, the same story device thing of just I'm the last survivor of this vault. I'm very special for such and such reasons. Da, 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 da. I have these traumatic events. I have all this all this sort of stuff. That's not to say that it's not written well. I'm sure that they write it very well. I just don't like seeing an overused trope. It's almost like a way, and this is actually referenced something a little bit more that's less kind of current at this time. The first Incredibles movie, the villain in that one said, "If I make everyone special, then no one is special." And that's kind of the pitfall I think I see with Fallout Equestrian a little bit in a way, is that everyone's character in it is special because of their traumatic backstory or their mutation or their terrible history. But in the end, I can't really tell the difference between one or the other because they all seem to just echo each other. It's just like one big echo chamber of all the same idea.
See, you just said that you don't know or read anything about Fallout Equestria, which is funny. And you're going over here saying that all of these are the same. Project Horizons didn't do that. The original didn't do that. Pink Eyes didn't do that. Uh, Mine, that I never finished, didn't do that. A bunch actually have not followed the "oh, my stable died" trope.
So, well, see, that's good. Then if that's true, and that's true, is that so? If a lot of people do that, then good. I wholeheartedly encourage that because I don't want to see a sort of pitfall happen to story writing. I want people to be original with it and to do their own thing with it. And if that is being pursued, then I have 100% support for that. I absolutely do. I just say the reason I say that though is just because usually when I check to see like updated stories or I see like news stories listed, everything like that, it's always kind of words and phrases that are echoed and everything. Like they're always in the wasteland. They're always leaving their stable, leaving their vault, and I'm just like, okay, oh, it's another one of these sort of deal. None of them have really jumped out at me as sort of one that I would want to read. But again, that part of that is because I've never really been into Fallout. So that's kind of my pitfall there too. I'm not one who can offer a fair opinion because I've never actually sat down to watch and play the whole series. So in some regards, I know about it, but I'm not informed on it, so I can't really offer a true answer.
Okay, okay, and what you just said, it also tells me something. And actually, my my actions are gonna speak more than words because I'm gonna send you a link to one Fall to Twistery story that doesn't follow any of the tropes of oh they're a hero, oh they came out of a stable. It doesn't follow any of that.
Okay.
And in this story too, spoilers. There were certain scenes, and it reminds me of what you just said, where like characters would say like, "Oh, this is just another goody two shoes hero going on saving the wasteland," and they would like be an asshole because heroes were such like a big thing that it was oversaturated in the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I felt you just said. You just stated that the stories feel oversaturated, correct?
Well, I want to say that it seems that way just because when I read the synopsis for these stories when they appear, because the site lets you see a synopsis to the story before you click the story, a lot of them use the same kind of selling points. And I feel like if I see the same selling point again and again, like the same kind of uh, appealing remarks, being like, will she find life? Will he or she, find their family and stuff like that? Like, I get what they want to do with it. It's just that it's not being sold to me in a way that I feel interested in. That is not to say it's not to comment on whether the story's good or not. I'm not going to try and say that an author doesn't have skill or talent on what they're writing, especially when I haven't sat down to read it. I have absolutely no right, and I will say that straightforward. I have no right to say or make a judgment call by any means. But I do feel like if someone's going to present me a story, I want to make sure that it's going to stand out. I want to feel like I'm getting a truly well done story.
Okay, okay. What else to ask you?
Plenty of stuff. I've got plenty of stuff to answer.
Oh man. Let's see. But I don't really have much questions left.
Hmm. You could ask me about characters if you want to ask me about characters. That's fine.
I mean, I would like to, but your stories are clop,
Yeah, it's true. I am kind of all over the place with that.
and I'm doing this for YouTube, so that's a
Yeah,
big
we can't talk
no-no.
about. Yeah, we can't talk about that too much now. I mean, it's funny because it's almost an ironic thing to say that because I've had people actually do like live readings of my stuff on YouTube, and as far as I know, they're still there. I don't know if they are or not. But no, I understand. I totally understand. You can't talk about everything at once.
Yeah, but I'm a full-fledged YouTuber that doesn't want to talk about like this content because
Oh,
like
right. No, I totally understand. I totally understand.
hashtag YouTube's a fucking asshole. Um, but man, since I have no more questions, maybe you can rant.
Uh, what would I rant about? Give AJ better writing. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do actually want that. Uh, let me think. What could I rant about involving the show? I could do with seeing. I like the whole school thing we've been doing. I see what they're doing with it. It's kind of a new direction for it. At the same time, it doesn't totally appeal to me. If only just because it seems like such a odd thing that we've gone from, oh, these are a group of friends, who, they're elements of harmony and they're all just kind of making their own lives as they go. And now we fast forward and now they're like professors of friendship. And I'm just, ah, they did what now? Sort of thing. But if I wanted to see something from the show, I'm trying to think of like there's two main things I'd want to see come from the show because they haven't really announced any more like episodes or plans or anything like that as far as I'm aware of. I don't want spoilers or anything, but I would love to see some more of Celestia because she's only had just like a couple spotlights, and I would love to see more of her. Um, and I'd like to see actually, I'd like to see Octavia have an episode where she has a speaking main role. I feel like of all the fandom characters out there, her and Vinyl Scratch, they have so much popularity, so much content behind them, and just like artwork and music, and writing and everything, that they would have an episode solely focused on them, like as a main role. And I think that would be really cool to see. I think there would be. Now that would also be kind of pandering on Hasbro's behalf, kind of pandering to the audience, which a lot of people kind of disagree with because they want people to focus on their main stuff, their main characters, which I respect that. I just think it'd be really cool to see something like that come about.
Okay, now I have more questions. How do you feel
Shoot.
about the supposedly Gen 5?
I haven't actually seen any of that myself. I'll be honest with you. I've heard like little wins and bits of rumor about that. I don't know what to make of it, and I only say that just because trying to plan that out and figure that out ahead of time before we have anything really concrete, it can kill motivation a bit. Like it can disengage one's interest in the series or something, especially if something happens to a character they like and then they see something that comes from the future and they're like, oh god, I don't want to see that happen, and then they just like, well, I'm not going to watch anymore, I'm done, it stops. I mean, it could happen if they have a Gen 5 planned, and if it's going to be as good as what we have now, I'd welcome it. I would want to see, I would be curious to see, is it going to continue from where we have now? Like, is it going to be an evolution of the series, or is it just going to be another fresh start and like everything we've done is like another reality or another time or something like that? I don't know. I'd be interested to see what they do with it.
It's funny because people thought that Gen 4 was like taken away from Gen 1, and in a certain season that was not the case when Tyrant came back.
No, it's true. It's definitely so because I did see some comparisons. Like they said like, oh well, this character is just a recycled version of this character from Gen 1, and I'm like, okay, well, isn't that a good thing because they went back and realized this character had enough potential to be reborn in this sort of series, and now they're back and they actually are a lot more better written, better interesting, not just written to sell, the usual typical girl dolls and stuff like that, but now they actually have character to them, and I think that's important.
And I also feel like that scene around the end of the episode was for the adult fans.
The latest one, you mean?
The one about where in this was when Twilight fought Tyrant.
Yes, that one. That one was God. That was such a cool thing to see. I still love. That was a great episode. That one was. And I can say that just because, I mean, for one thing, everyone said it had echoes of DBZ in it. And I was like, well, yeah, of course it does. You've got giant laser beams. You're destroying huge mountains and environments. You've got people waging battle with, like, near godlike levels of power. It's insane and crazy to watch. But at the same time, and it did work for that. I feel like it was also kind of an aimed at the kids in a way too, though, because kids do take to that pretty well. They want to see a throwdown between good and evil. They want to see the good guy stand up and say, "No, enough's enough. We're not going to talk this out. We're not going to have just a standoff. I'm shutting this down," sort of deal. And I felt like the whole Twilight versus Tyrek fight really delivered on that. And it did let them even work Hasbro in a way because they got to market their Rainbow Power uh, toy line and everything that they were going to introduce, which they did like right after that. And then there was also the setup for the Guardians of Harmony sort of stuff that we've got. They still haven't delivered on that Guardians of Harmony stuff yet. I want to see that come about. Maybe that will come about later on in track, who knows. But it's definitely stuff that they can work with. They definitely do know how to appeal to both kids and adults.
Okay, okay. Um, man. So, you remember when Twilight was showing Starlight all the different futures?
Yes.
Do you also remember the scene where the the MLP was in a war against Sombra?
Yes, I remember that specifically.
And how they like were in soldier outfits and like making stuff for the war?
Yep.
So I looked at that scene and I was like, hmm. And then I looked at the scene where everything was like barren and destroyed and just like there was sand everywhere and the skies were gray. You know what it told me right there?
What did it say?
Fallout Equestria confirmed.
And you know what? In a way, I can see that. It makes sense to see that. I can see that coming about. I can't say. Is it one that I would read or something like that? You know, I mean, like when I introduced that whole concept of just like the different timelines and stuff, I was like, well, it makes sense because you had this timeline where they didn't defeat Sombra and Sombra went to war again, and okay, then that happened. You had a timeline where Chrysalis took over the world. You had a timeline where Discord never was defeated, and people ran with that as this whole like either alternate reality, alternate timeline sort of deal, and that was cool. But then the whole, barren wasteland and everything like that delivered the message of, if you get rid of our friendships, you get rid of the world, which I think that was kind of the punchline delivered to Starlight Glimmer in a way. But I could see that. I could see that being used almost as like a legitimate canon piece to say, yes, Fallout Equestria can happen in the canon universe. It is an existing thing in an alternate timeline, alternate reality. And I think that does add a kind of a legitimacy to the idea in a way too, that to have that kind of idea presented, and I feel like that helps it. That's actually a good thing to have that. It inspires more creativity for someone to go like a nod from the creators, being like, "Yeah, we see what you've been doing there, and you know what? We kind of agree. Here's our take on it." And they're like, "Oh, hey, I can actually run with that. I can actually work with that," sort of deal.
And another thing, since you've would you say you've gotten big or famous in the fandom?
Have I done anything big or famous in the fandom?
Would you
Ah,
say that you have gotten big or famous?
nah, I wouldn't say that. I'd only say that just because, in a way, in a way, it's a good and bad thing. It's good because to be really, really famous in the fandom, you have to be either 100% immersed in it, like going to cons, being involved in huge community projects, sort of thing, making it your life. Unfortunately, as much as I love the show, I can't make it be that dominant aspect of my life just because that wouldn't be able to work for me. It's not feasible. Not to say it couldn't be done, but just because of my current living circumstances, I can't commit that much to it. At the same time, I do wish that I could have been a bigger part of it. I wish that I could have gotten more attention. But that's everyone wants that. Everyone wants to have the spotlight and the big here's Steel Quill's next story, and everyone's like, hey, story or whatever. And of course, everyone would love that. But I feel like I've made my mark. At least I feel like I've entertained a really big deal of people. A lot of people have enjoyed my work, not just for the sex bits, but just for the romance parts and the characterizations I've done and the takes on things I've done. And I feel like I've done good with that. And I've actually gotten to work with some of the bigger artists out there. I've gotten to do stuff for Sunny Sundown. I've gotten to do stuff for Marthul, artists like them. I love their stuff. Spindles, really, really great. They're nice. They're not safe for work artists, but they are really fantastic artists, regardless of that fact. And it's I've enjoyed getting to do stuff for them. It's been fun.
Now, it's really great that you have met me because also what you said is entirely not true. I've not gone to cons. I've not met up with people, but somehow I'm still where I'm at. I've met Looney the Turtle, or well, online, and
Mm-hmm.
I speak to him every now and again. I even interviewed him. I've spoken to Paul Peoples. I've spoken to Mimi Zinga, and Mimizina is the second is in the top 10 of Florida Equestria stories. She is no, he
Okay.
has the second best Florida Equestria story.
Oh, that's a pretty big commendation there.
Now, if you said you would love to work with like not safe for work artists, correct?
I have worked with them in the past. Like
Well,
I've
bigger
gone and
ones.
asked her, well, bigger one. I mean, if the opportunity came along that someone felt that my writing ability was good enough to work with them, like that they had an idea that they felt would that my writing style would work for them, I could probably work with them, sure. But that would depend on, of course, the idea.
Now, see, just give me one of your best stories, and I'll pitch the link to Paul Peoples.
One of my best stories, huh?
Yes.
Uh, let's see. Which one would that be? If I had to pick a story that I was like, this is the cream of my crop sort of deal. Let's see. Um, Gosh, that's actually really hard to pick because I've gotten a lot that I'm fond of that I don't know really stand out. I mean, medical relief, that was one of my old standbys, but I've kind of evolved beyond that writing compared to now. Uh, Gosh, it's hard to pick. I would say one of the ones that like if I like my serious full on legit like romance writing, worth 1,000 words. I did that with Fleur de Lis and Featherweight, which was an interesting pairing to do with that. And then of course one of my more popular ones of current is Twilight's Boost of Confidence. That one just exploded. I don't even know how that happened. I just wrote the idea, threw the cover art up there, and next thing I know, it's featured and everything. And I'm just like, oh my god, why is everyone in love with this story? Sort of deal.
Now, who created that art?
That was Marthel. Marthel did Twilight's Boost of Confidence cover art, which I credit to him. I always credit the artist when I can.
Now,
Uh, he inspired the idea with a series of photos of Twilight, kind of like in a gym workout outfit thing, but she's also like dieting terribly, like she's eating hay burgers, drinking shakes and things like that. And it's just like, Twilight, you're not supposed to do this. She's like, I'm doing it anyway. It's like, well, what if she did that full? What if that was her workout routine? What if because of her alicorn genes, she's able to take the terrible, terrible eating habits and turn them into a workout routine? And this light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, that's perfect. I'll do that. And it was just a silly, for fun idea that I ran with, and it exploded. Like, as it's sitting right now, it's almost at 10,000 hits, and I'm just like, it's been up for 2 months, and it's gotten more hits than stories I've had out for like 2 years, and it stupefies me.
now, yeah, I like what you're saying too, and it's really great that you did a bunch of artists. But like, I've looked at Paul People's art, and I want to see your opinion on what I'm about to show you.
Okay, is it gonna be on Discord? Do you link it? Okay, let's see. Now, who did this?
Paul Peoples.
Paul Peoples?
Yes.
Hmm. Okay, there we go. Loaded. Uh, that looks cool. I like it. Is it the premise for a story, or is it just a piece they did on their own?
I believe it is a piece they did on their own. I believe they do not make art for stories, although they have been trying to make like a backstory for their character, which they have not done as of late because they've been too busy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think I like it though because the AJ's in her swamp traveling monster hunting like fighting gear bit right there with the rubber hoof shoes thing there, not socks but like boots, and it kind of strikes that element of there in there because you've got all three villainous characters kind of staring down at her and like she's getting ready to face him off or something like that. And I like that. That's cool. I like that idea of her squaring off with them. I
This
want her to
is
win, of course.
this is the least not safe for work art I could find.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
But it works.
once we have a chance after we're done with the interview, I will send you links to contact them.
Okay. If I get the free time, I'll talk to them and see if there's any. Are they looking for writers right now or something?
I don't believe so, but you could try to commission them for an art.
Oh, that's true. I could. It's always good to support artists. I'll have to look at their stuff and see what they could work with there. And of course, if they have free time, I don't want to make an artist take up more free time if they, if they've got a already full schedule. Last thing you want to do for an artist is overwhelm them.
Yeah. Let's see. What else can I say? Oh, what is your least favorite episode in the show?
My least favorite episode. Trying to think of something that's not going to get a lot of flaming. It's really hard to choose. My least favorite episode. Honestly, it would have to be. It's almost ironic in a way. The episode where we basically get Starlight to seventh main character. She joins. She's friends with everyone and everything. I don't know what it is about it. Just I feel like in all the times I've read stories and read things like that, when a villain turns themselves into a good person, they have to experience a lot of character development. They can't just skip from, I'm a villain, I want to defeat everything about you, I hate you, that stuff. And then they turn to, I'm your friend. And they kind of ran with that, with that episode with her. They did this whole bit of, did this whole bit where 1 minute she's about to tear up the whole spell, Star Scroll spell. She's basically going to ruin the time-space continuum, maybe even make all those alternate realities real. And then we like 5 minutes later, because this is all taking place in the same episode. 5 minutes later, she's a friend, and I'm sitting there just like, I don't think we've done enough to really qualify that here. I just didn't feel like there was enough there done to really show her not only being apologetic for all the trouble she's caused. I mean, she almost broke time. If Dr. Hooves had been there, he would have been like beating the crap out of her. But at the same time, I mean, I get what they wanted to do. She's a new character. They're wanting to introduce her and everything, and I get that. I get that there's time constraints. I just feel like it could have been done better.
Now this is funny. So what you're saying is that, hold on a sec.
Yeah, wait.
Sorry, if you've used Discord a lot, you know there's a push to talk button, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and my key is the K key, and sometimes when I have the thing still on the message it spams the K.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's good. What I was saying is that a lot of fans hated the trope about how we got a bad guy. Oh, he's reformed now.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't want to see that. I want to see. It's actually part of like everyone, like the one villain who hasn't been reformed or been turned or anything is Chrysalis, and I love that.
And Somber.
I love having a genuine villain.
You forgot about Sombra, Tyrek.
Tyrek was introduced, he was there, and then he was handled. He was a great villain. I'm not saying that at all, that he's not a great villain. He was definitely evil. He was definitely a bad guy and everything like that. But he was also handled in that 2 episodes. He was done, and he is still done. Chrysalis is still a recurring villain. She was evil when we first saw her. She was evil when we ran into her again. She was evil just this past week. She stays in that vein. She stays in that role, and she works that role really well. And I love that about a character when they stick to their role.
Well, Sombra could come back.
It's possible. I haven't seen anything to say he couldn't. I don't know. It'd be cool to see him come back in a way and have actual dialogue, hopefully too. You know, not just crystals.
And stairs.
Yeah, that would be a lot better to have him have actual dialogue. They probably learned that lesson. But I don't know. I just see, but that's the thing with Starlight Glimmer. She had this whole bit. She was a villain. She was a bad person. She brainwashed a whole village of people just because she was trying to take all the cutie marks because of one bad experience as a child. Which, I have a whole book of complaints about that. But and then we fast forward to the end of that season where we finally see her. You know, she's like, okay, fine, I messed up. I was wrong. And then suddenly she's a friend. And it's like, okay, no, you have been evil this entire time. You have been a bad person this entire time. You need more time to flesh out you being bad. And not only that, but you also being redeemed. If you want to be redeemed, earn it. Earn your redemption. Don't just throw it on them.
Now, this is also interesting. I'm gonna state characters that have not been reformed in the show that could come back.
Go ahead.
Sombra, Tyrid,
Oh yeah, that's a given.
uh,
Tyrek.
Storm King.
I thought Storm King was dead.
He did not die.
What happened? Oh, how did that happen? Like, I haven't actually sat down for the film. I'll be honest.
He got turned to stone. He shattered, but he still was alive.
Okay.
What else? Who else could come back? Nightmare Moon.
Nightmare Moon?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know on that one. I only say I don't know just because it seems the Nightmare Moon angle isn't being worked to where she was her own individual as much as she was just an alternate persona for Luna, almost. That's how they seem to have worked it in the whole episode's context. I feel like they've done that.
Any of the villains from that comic book could come out.
Now, see, that's the thing. Now, that would be really cool to see if they invoked villains from the comic books. If they did that, that would be really cool. I would definitely support that.
No. I'm talking about the one with the powerful six or whatever it's called.
Now, which comic? You mean the IDW series, right?
No, when in the actual show, Spike. And,
Oh, the superhero comics. Yes, the Maniac
Yes.
and all that stuff. That would be cool. Now, see that I still say that would still be cool. I was saying before that because there's the whole IDW line of comics, but they
Which
introduced
is
a whole
not
lot of
canon.
other characters. What's that?
That's not canon.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, if they ever did make a canon thing, like if they said this comic actually ties in, I think that'd be cool. But no, Maniac could reappear or something like that, or she gets brought back and be like, that would be something. I don't know how well she would go from being in the superhero modern universe to like Ponyville. I don't know how well she'd take to that. She would probably wreck some stuff though, I'm sure.
The Sphinx could come back.
The Sphinx. Oh yes, the Sphinx. That's true. Was the Sphinx really a villain?
Yes.
I didn't quite get that vibe off the Sphinx. I felt more it was an antagonist, but not a like evil intended antagonist almost in a way. It was more of like a chaotic element introduced.
It
That's
was
my take.
literally challenging someone, and they were gonna die if they didn't win.
Well, yeah, no, that's a Sphinx for you. Sphinxes do that.
Okay. What else? I don't think I have any more villains.
Well, you can't do the Smooze because that's already been introduced, and the Smooze is now just this friendly, gelatinous blob now. Discord's actually a good guy now, kind of. Uh, I don't know. A lot of the other kind of villainous characters we've run into have been kind of already undone in a way, so to speak. So I mean, but there's still
Trixie's
some potential.
kind of reformed, but she's not.
Yeah, it's Trixie. Everyone loves her anyway. She could be a villain, they love her. She could be a good person, they love her. She's just a fan favorite. Um, I would say, you got that listing there: Sombra, Tyrek, uh, Maniac, Storm King. You've got some potential villains who could come back, and if they come back, and if they're written really well, I think that would do really good. But they have to. That's probably one of the key things. It has to be written really well. You can't just have a aha, I'm back. 15 minutes later, oh no, I'm defeated. Make it better than that. Make it be something worthwhile.
Now, I also have a question for you, but I'm forgetting what it was.
Take your time.
Hmm. I fucking can't remember. Damn it.
Do you remember any idea of what it might have pertained to? Like, was it something to do with the fandom or
It was something
the,
about a certain villain or something like that.
well, let's see, you got, if you want me to run down, I could run down the villains and see if it rings any bells. You got Nightmare Moon, Discord, Sombra, Chrysalis, uh, let's see, Tyrek, sorry, uh, uh, Dawnbreaker, technically. She's kind of villainous. If we're gonna say Nightmare Moon, you got to include Dawnbreaker. Um, who else? There was that shadow thing that Luna had. That Penumbra.
I remember
Something?
now.
I
I
can't remember.
remember now. I remember now.
Ah,
The
okay.
hooded figure that was playing that piano in the earlier seasons.
Season 3, wasn't it?
I
Season 3,
believe
season 4.
so.
That hooded figure. We never did get an answer on who that was, did we?
Yes, we didn't, and I still people speculate. Oh, Tyrek, and I'm like,
Nah, it wouldn't be T-Rex. Because if T-Rex, if that had been the case, like that would have been like announced or something like that. Like that would have been like a tidbit in the next episode. Be like, T-Rex has escaped, such and such prison. We're looking for him or something like that. But there was none of that. He wasn't mentioned until that very episode where he's introduced. So it couldn't have been him. I don't know. I mean, it could have been as just a ghost haunting that area. It could have been magic itself trying to personify itself or something like that. I don't know. It's an open-ended sort of thing. It could have been anyone.
it could have been a zebra.
It could have been. It's very possible.
I
There's not
really,
really
I
any. There wasn't any
really
given hint
wish,
though.
I really wish that there was a whole race of zebra.
Well, they may introduce something like that sooner or later. I'm pretty sure, because I mean, it would be really dumb of them to not introduce or not to have other zebra characters appear, just because you can't have it be just Zecora. There has to be other characters. Because if she was the last one or something like that, I'm pretty sure it would have been stated by 8 seasons by now if she was the last one, which she obviously isn't. So we have to kind of wait on that. But they might run with that sooner or later.
I really hope they do. Um, and the last question actually,
Yeah,
how do you feel about the villains?
like all the villains in general.
Yes.
Um, I think creatively they're each unique in their own way. I mean, you take a look at each one as we've been introduced and been written in. They had their own abilities. They've had their own backstories. They've been unique. Uh, a few, of course, weren't as they didn't deliver as well as they should have. Sombra was probably the best case for that. He's introduced. He's the terrible monster of the Crystal Empire, imprisoned everyone for 1,000 years. Da, 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 da. And then he can't say any other words aside from crystals and stairs and everything else, and it's just like really bad deliverance. And then and I felt like he was almost set up for that failure in a way, because when you came off season 2, you had this amazing villain in Chrysalis, the shapeshifter, the woman who almost overtook the royal monarchy if not for one person's intervention. She could have slipped in, took over Equestria for the changelings and everything, and completely took over society. And it was really impressive. That's what made her stand out, and that's why I think she continues to be such a good villain, is because she came the closest compared to all the other villains to succeeding in her plans. Like Tyrek, all his if Tyrek came close too, I'll be fair about that. Tyrek came close too because he got almost all the powers. He got the powers of Discord. He got all the Alicorn powers, everyone's powers. But all of his goal was just wanton destruction. He didn't have anything beyond that. Chrysalis actually had an intelligent, calculated plan, and she almost got away with it. And that's what I think makes her be the best villain out of all of them.
Okay, so we are gonna wrap it up here. Anything else you want to add?
Uh, no, I'm all good here. I think I've got everything. I'm good.
Okay, hope you guys really liked that video, and there's gonna be more interviews in the future. Hopefully this doesn't kill me or it doesn't become saturated. I'm not French, I swear. But remember, join the nation, prove the nation. Bye bye.